the coal mines there are amazing because everywhere else it's these real nice linear formations because it's basically just an old forest that more earth got piled on top of over hundreds of millions of years or whatever it is. But in Pennsylvania, the coal is kind of like at a 45-degree angle, which
And
is
you're chasing it.
And you're chasing it, yeah. And it's a lot messier than a nice Gillette, Wyoming, Powder River Basin coal mine.
The same way the rock aggregate mines are as well.
Yeah.
You know, we're sometimes just chasing some overburden, knock it off, finally get to a decent seam. And then you have to go find it again.
Yeah. Yeah, you think making rock is simple, but it's not because you need a certain kind of rock. And so even though that's rock, it's not the rock we need. And then, yeah, you'll have these veins of just garbage running through your pit that you got to dig out of there, no matter where you're at in elevation. There's a lot to making rock that you don't really think about.
Yeah, and how the geology lays, which rock is, are we shooting it in the right direction to give them the product they want?
Well, and up there, too, there's a lot of cement.
Yes.
And with cement, you have to
mix.
Yeah, you have to mix. You can't just throw whatever limestone in there and expect the same cement to come out the other end.
A lot of people don't understand that when they go to make it. I mean, the people that are actually making it do.
Yeah.
People that buy out drilling and blasting, bring into your mine. The procurement people don't always understand that.
Yeah.
About that. Well, if you're buying the rock by the ton or your explosives by the ton, like a drill blast package or whatever it may be, it's not cookie cutter. You're not buying widgets.
Yeah.
Some days we can shoot big shots. Sometimes we have to shoot 2 or 3 different areas so you can mix it all together.
Sure.
That's why cement blasting is a little bit different.
Yeah. Well, and that's the fascinating thing about drilling and blasting in general is it's different everywhere. It's so variable. And you think, the common person thinks you just put some dynamite, they always call it dynamite, throw some dynamite in the hole and just let it rip like Wile E. Coyote.
And that's the old school thinking that you're just out there with a plunger and just...
Yeah. I do wish we still did blasting that way, though. The buttons and stuff, it's not nearly as cool. It's like, the little Pelican case with the fancy insides. I'd rather do the plunger.
Guess we could still do that.
Couldn't you still do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably not as safe as what it is today with all the new technology.
Well, still have the new technology.
Yeah.
But even if it's like, for kids, they have like the fake cooking. So the kid feels like they're helping with dinner, but they're not actually cooking. It's kind of like that. You set that up on the side, and at the same time, you actually hit the button, but you make the person feel good about the plunger.
Like they really set it off.
It's an experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. So were with Dyno.
Yes.
And Dyno makes explosives.
Yes. They're one of the 4 major manufacturers of explosives.
Okay.
And their North America headquarters is out of Salt Lake City.
Okay. Where's Dyno out of?
Australia.
Orc
and Dyno are both Australian-owned companies.
Is that right? Okay. There's a lot of blasting in Australia.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, there's this video going around the internet of, I guess, the largest blast ever at that coal mine in Queensland. And I was supposed to go to that exact coal mine this last trip. And then at the last minute, we got pushed to another mine. But I've never seen bigger shots than out there. I posted a picture of it the other day of just like this enormous shot. And you look at the holes, you're like, that's not that big of a shot. And then you look at the pickup truck, you realize the holes are just fucking huge. and you look at the pickup truck out there that they call Ute, you're like, oh, wow, they're going to let that thing rip. And that is a production shot, let me tell you. So it's an Australian company.
Yeah.
Okay. How'd you end up with them?
Well, I was working for a joint venture in the Northeast, main drilling and blasting.
Yeah.
And
big operation.
Yeah, they're a big operation. Good family company that Dyno bought into, being the manufacturer. So Dyno has a lot of joint ventures throughout the United States.
Okay.
Okay. So in different parts of the country, it's Buckley Powder, who I work for now, Wampum Hardware, and various others. Okay, that use their explosives and distribute it to other people to use as well.
Okay.
So Dyno Nobel, there was an opportunity that they had some operations to be fixed and make an impact with in 2019. After working for one of their joint ventures for 9.5 years, they came to me and had this opportunity, and didn't know what it was when they were talking to me initially, but they said, we have some things in Alabama that need to be fixed. And I said, you sure? I'm a guy from Pennsylvania. What does a guy from Pennsylvania know about Alabama? But basically, I had an opportunity and took that opportunity in Alabama, Georgia, Florida, and the Bahamas to run that operation and kind of build a team down there.
Okay.
And did that for them. And then we had the opportunity in Nashville to open an office here as Dyno Nobel. And so added Tennessee to my operations. And our team then took on an acquisition of Hermitage Explosives, which was a family-owned business in Tennessee and Nashville that was affiliated with Dyno.
I got you.
And then, with Dyno for 4.5 years, and then the two entities, which Dyno is a joint venture with Wampum, the Davis family and from Wampum, and Dyno Nobel came to me with an opportunity to shift and do similar things and bring new energy and help the Davis family run their business and
as
go into the future.
As you're talking, I'm just putting two and two together. So it's Nobel as in the guy that basically invented modern explosives.
Correct. And the Nobel Peace Prize.
And the Nobel Peace Prize, which I didn't know until recently. And I was looking it up because I feel like I heard on some podcast, maybe Joe Rogan or something like that. And I looked it up. Yeah. So the guy invents explosives and then he creates the Nobel Peace Prize after he becomes this explosives magnate.
Right.
So it's the same name, same guy. That's fascinating.
Same guy.
I've never even thought that there was the same until just as you were talking about. I was like, wait a minute, that's the same gang.
Yeah.
So Dyno Nobel goes
way back
then. Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the explosives industry has gone through its different name changes, mergers, acquisitions, different holding companies, things like that are ultimately what's behind Dyno Nobel or Orca.
Then who are the others? Austin
Powder.
Yeah.
They've always been Austin.
Yeah.
I think their hard hat sticker says is ever 1833 and ever since. Or
Yeah. I have one of their hard hat stickers on my hard hat because that's what we used when I was blasting with Kiewit because we were up in the Pacific Northwest.
Okay.
And they have a big presence up there.
Yeah, I'll have to give you a new hard hat sticker to cover that one up.
You're not the first. You're not the first explosives guy outside of Austin, but it's an interesting business. It's a niche business, and it's not something that I can't really become an explosives entrepreneur. I can't go start my own explosives company tomorrow.
Not tomorrow.
Yeah, no. It would take a little bit.
Take some red tape.
There's some barrier to entry.
Yes.
Yeah, there's some.
Which makes it a good niche to be in.
Yeah.
It's not like you can just go buy a lawnmower and now all of a sudden you're in landscaping.
Yeah, sure.
You need a little bit of time and thought process to enter. But I think the industries go through their different changes, and that's through leadership. We're going to enter the markets through joint ventures or independent distributors, or we're going to do it all ourselves. So I think as you see over the years, history kind of repeats itself after a while, and it's but I mean like Wampum Hardware, we started as a hardware store. Mm-hmm. That's why it's Wampum Hardware in Western Pennsylvania, from little Wampum, PA, and the Davis family is now in their 5th generation of running the company. Next year they'll be 120 years of being in business.
Wow.
And when you start out as a hardware store selling, farming supplies and other things, and then all of a sudden you're starting to sell more black powder off your shelf and dynamite.
Yeah. Sure.
And then you start to realize, oh, as business people, let's shift this way. And now you grow into this very huge family business that is backed by a manufacturer of explosives.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So is it what does the business do nowadays?
As far as how big?
Yeah, like what does the business
area?
look like? Yeah, and what's the kind of work?
We do drilling and blasting services.
So drilling and blasting.
Okay. Yeah, we do supply to underground mines of explosives. Sometimes we'll do the blasting with our people. Sometimes we'll just give some technical expertise and assistance, support. Other times we're just providing the explosives and their blasters go underground and do that, or surface mining.
There's so much here. So one misconception about blasting, I've already referenced it. Everybody thinks it's dynamite that you're throwing into holes to blow stuff up nowadays.
Right.
It's not dynamite, because dynamite's not that great from a stability standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, it's
nitroglycerin.
Yeah, we still use dynamite in a lot of pipeline work, ditch work. Obviously, that this era right now, it's not a lot of that's going on.
Yeah.
But that's a product that's designed for that kind of work.
Okay.
Now, just like you have everything else, you have many tools in your toolbox as an explosives person. So there's a reason why we have bulk emulsion.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pumpable emulsion, just like a slurry, almost like a milkshake that we pump out of a bulk truck.
Mm-hmm.
And, any normal person would be like, when I tell them what I do for a living, and I say, well, I blow shit up, and they go, what? Is that legal?
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
How can you do enough work of that? But they don't realize that this niche is enormous globally, and in North America, they just don't realize that it has to happen, or we can't have the things that we want to scroll on or drink out
nothing.
of.
It's like, have you used a road? Do you live in a house?
Did you go over that bridge?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
You want building materials?
Yeah. You drive a car. Like it all comes from. That's the joke in mining. You can't outdig the blasters. Can't outdig the drills.
Correct. And the drilling is one of the most difficult things to get right consistently. Explosives is a piece of it, but getting the drilling right makes a really good blaster.
I got an amazing education in drilling and blasting by accident when I worked for Kiewit. We were making jetty stone, which is a very unique form of drilling and blasting, and a form of drilling and blasting I've still never seen since I worked for Kiewit. Because usually you're when you're blasting, it's production. You're making it something that isn't diggable, which is small rocks. But what we were after were big rocks. And so it was so good from a first blasting project, because you learned so much about drilling, about powder patterns, about powder factors, about decking holes. It was like the science project. So it wasn't just like, here's kind of the formula that works and we're just loading holes, production. It was half science, half art. And so I got to see the difference in patterns, for example, and the difference in hole depth, and the difference in powder factors, and how many boosters did we use per hole. And there were all these things we were playing with that gave me a really good background as far as like the fundamentals of blasting is concerned, which I thought was very cool.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons that I enjoy construction. Because the jobs change, the rock changes. Yeah. And as you move around even individual states, like here in Tennessee, what rock you have could change from, 3 miles down the road.
Yeah.
And in Pennsylvania, the same way. I mean, you have shale, you have limestone, you have real pinnacled stuff, you have sandstone. I mean, it's just all over the place. And, that's just one thing. By doing blasting and being a part of companies that were in the whole Northeast, from Maine down to Florida and the Bahamas, all the way over now to Tennessee, Alabama, and then up to Wampum Hardware goes as far out west to Indiana and the southern part of Michigan.
I got you.
So it just gives you more growth that you can get around. Like you see so much more than I'd even do, because you travel all over the place. You don't even talk about Australia. I mean,
Yeah.
you've seen many ways of methods of excavation, many ways of different geologies. And when you start to get around to these places, it's like, wow, we may be doing things one way and have been for the last 20 years, but there's other things that we can try.
Mm-hmm.
And when you talk about like jetty stone, I laugh. Like, that's the customer I would love to have that wants big rock.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, we can give you big rock.
Yep.
We do that sometimes by accident. Okay.
It's not always everybody's favorite.
Right.
Usually big rock is not what you want. But
right. We make big rocks, small rocks normally.
Yeah, and the variability in geography is really amazing. The one of the mines we went to in Australia, it was in a very new part of Queensland where they haven't mined before at this scale. And it's probably one of the last greenfield coal mines in the country, unfortunately. And it's in this new area. So one of the mine managers was basically explaining if we were in this area, which was a few hours away where most of the mines are, we would know how to mine because we would look at the mine next door and the geology would be similar enough so that we could use the same methodology. Whereas out here, we've really just you have all these core samples. And so you kind of know what's there, but you don't really know how to mine it until you start just putting shovels in the ground and digging it. And then he said, as we've mined it over the past few years, and then, for example, the water, how it interacts with it and how it changes throughout the year. And we've learned how to manage and mine it effectively. But you'd think that this multi-billion-dollar operation, like, of course they have a plan from the beginning and they just execute the plan. But it's not like that at all because you're dealing with the earth.
Right. And it's changing by the bucket.
Right? Yeah.
And, there's many mines that we go into, quarries that end up having a different shot pattern for each bench depth.
Mm.
And then if you go in and you have almost like a construction project in a quarry, like near the scale house or near the crusher, or you're putting a sump in, you end up bringing smaller diameter holes in and different methodologies or a different product. You may be able to shoot ANFO, bulk ANFO, or like a blend in certain areas, but then you have to go to more of a water resistant product like bulk emulsion in the lower holes, where you have all that, you're encountering all that water.
Yeah, and so your primary, you have your primary explosive that does the real work, and that's the ANFO or emulsion. The biggest difference between ANFO and emulsion is groundwater, for the most part.
Water resistant, and then also the density. It's a heavier product is the emulsion versus the lighter product is ANFO.
So it's more energy with emulsion?
There's more gas in ANFO.
Mm-hmm.
Get a little bit more heave.
Okay, I got you.
That's why a lot of times we'll blend some ANFO in the emulsion to make it a blend. Get that extra heave if you have a lot of water.
Oh, okay. I got you.
Yeah. A lot of explosive manufacturers try to make one product.
Mm-hmm.
It's, make it for the masses and get it out there. But rock likes different explosives.
Yeah.
And the best ones at doing it are the ones that are there with the customer, working with them, saying, okay, what do you need?
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to adjust my patterns, my powder factors for what you need. And if you don't need small rocks, well, then maybe we can spread some things out and do some things differently to do our work cheaper for them for the end result. But we don't want to go the opposite way too far, where we're shooting the rock too cheaply, and then it costs them money at the end of the cycle.
I see that a lot though. Is these producer, like, I'm an idiot and I know better than that. Like, why are you trying to save money on drilling and blasting? Like, why are you squeezing here? Because I see these operations, it costs them so much more on the other side.
I think it's, you got to trust your people.
Yeah.
The guy that's making the decision on the pattern and the relationship between the blasting company, the blaster, really holds that relationship at the mine site. You can have salespeople, managers like myself, and things go around, but we really need that relationship to sell our explosives. That people buy from people.
Yeah.
You know, and you see that as people go around from different things, and that's something I really believe in. You know, you got to trust the person that's selling you. Hey, we got to make this change, and let me help prove it out. But give me time to prove out that I can. In the end result, if you spend some more money on the chemical explosion, we're gonna save you money down in your crusher.
Absolutely. Yeah. We're
We're gonna save you energy. I mean, how much is your electric bill? How much is your diesel fuel? What's your cycle times on your trucks? What's your guy digging?
Yeah.
You know, we creating tows that we have to come back in secondary blast after the fact. I mean, these are all costs that a procurement person necessarily isn't seeing in the spreadsheet.
And that's where I think they go wrong a lot of times, is they're making decisions based on the spreadsheet, not the reality of what's going on in the operation. It's pretty easy at this point to look at an operation and to know how well they're doing based on just how it looks, especially a pit. Like, I've seen beautiful pits, gorgeous pits, and I have seen just god awful operations. That's just like, how are you guys making money? But that's how much money they're making. They don't care. They don't need to do it effectively because they're still making money doing it the way they are. But I always appreciate a very, very good looking pit like Luckstone on the East Coast. Every one of their pits looks beautiful. I don't know what the heck they're doing, but they're doing it right. It's like, well, this is working. Drilling's working, blasting's working, load haul's working, everything's planned. This is a beautiful operation.
Yeah, and that's one of the questions coming into this that I wanted to ask you. I mean, getting around the different areas of the country and doing drilling and blasting, being a subcontractor lots of times, you know, you get to work with different contractors, and it just seems like you're saying with the Luckstones, the Sargents, those certain companies that have a high standard, they seem to do everything to a high standard. Like when it comes to paying their bills, how they treat their employees.
Yeah.
I mean, but then the opposite is also true when you see a bad looking pit and then you see that, well, we just got to hog out whatever rock we can get. There's no plan. And it's just, do you see that? Like, it almost seems like that when a company has one or two things right, they usually behind the curtain have the other stuff right.
100%. Yeah, 100%. And I think a big problem too in mining, especially in the aggregate world, is turnover, and or just managers moving pit to pit to pit to pit. So you're talking about how important the relationship is, but I know some mines on the East Coast that it's like every year they have totally new management, and the totally new management comes in and tries to do something differently, and then a year later they're gone, and then you have totally new management trying to do something differently again, and you would. Again, with the money in this world, you'd think it'd be more cohesive and deliberate than that. But a lot of times it's not. Like, I'm thinking of a really big operation right on the East Coast that I know is a complete mess just because they've turned over management annually. And it's a foreign company. So it's a very successful foreign company, but they just can't get their hands around this one operation just because of management.
Revolving door.
Yeah, which makes it hard to form that relationship and build that trust and actually work as a team rather than just do your fucking part. You're the drill and blaster, just drill and blast. We know what we're doing over here.
It's the things that the partnerships that work, and it's, if you get treated like a sub and that's all you are, like you said, just come in and do your
subcontractor,
or you're really a business partner.
Yeah.
And the best construction projects, best mine operations that we've been a part of and you enjoy going to work at is when you're treated like a business partner and that you have a say and that your opinion is taken into account when they're doing their planning. And if you can get involved with the planning, because as drilling and blasting, we're getting in when the stakeout's happening.
Yeah.
We're first, virtually the first in after the stripping crews pick out the trees or whatever, prep it for us. And then we're in. And, just more of that planning. One thing that Dyno Nobel has done well is have these blast optimization team meetings to discuss things. What sometimes I see happen out of some of the meetings is some things are said, and then the action items are just action items written down. And we got to bring actual action to that.
Yeah.
and not just talk about water falling and all these catchphrases. And it's actually, okay, get boots on the ground and ensure we're doing what we said we were going to do.
Yeah. 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 Blasting, when it's done right, again, it's just awesome to see. There's, I'm going out to Rio Tinto Kennecott in a few weeks.
Oh, wow.
And if you want to see real mining, that's the big leagues out there. And their blasting is like a science project. They have all these engineers focused on fragmentation, and they're just fixated on perfect fragmentation, because good fragmentation means good fill factor on their buckets and shovels. So now you're getting perfect passes, you're getting perfect loads on your trucks, and you're at peak efficiency, which is so important when you're moving that much material, because every little extra ton on that shovel matters.
Right.
And so they have all of their drills, their big production drills, which are a different world than drills in a quarry, for example. But they, and you know this, but it's just so cool to see. It maps the hardness of the rock for every single hole. And so every single hole, in theory, is loaded just a little bit differently to achieve perfect fragmentation for that specific blast.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome.
They developed the blast plan per the drilling data, which is just crazy. It's just like, that is so sick. It's so clever, so cool. I mean, that's the high dollar stuff.
Yeah.
Your mom and pop quarry can't do that, but that's what's possible.
No, it's what's possible. And you can do that, I guess the blue collar math way of doing it, and just, okay, we need a good drill log.
Uh-huh.
Let's start there.
Yes.
Okay, let's start with a good drill log, and let's spend some time watching the driller drill and make sure that how you would have mapped it as the blaster is what he or she in the drill cab is mapping it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really hard, because when you have the smaller quarries, whether they're mom and pop or they're owned by a larger organization, there's still some of those large organizations that have 300,000 ton quarries, or quote unquote borrow pit,
Yeah,
or
I've been to a bunch
whatever.
of them. Yeah.
And that makes up their 3 million tons that they sell a year, or whatever it's going to be. But they have 10 of them. So when you go into that quarry, you only have one shot a month, or maybe one shot a quarter, to get that end result.
Mm-hmm.
So that science project needs to be the consistent person, because, like you said, if that quarry manager or blaster isn't the same person that was there last quarter,
Yeah.
how are you really adjusting?
Yeah.
Because the history's missing.
Yeah, and with blasting too, you only have one try to get it right, in theory.
Yeah.
And so, but you screw it up, you're really slowing things down, potentially for weeks, months, if you get it wrong. You have to get it right.
You have
to remain efficient. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. It's so funny too, when the first time I saw someone lay out a pattern, and they pick out their rocks, and then they spray paint their rocks on, and I'm like, this is the best way. This is how you guys do it, just with spray paint and some rocks. I'm like, yeah, this is how we do it. And all these quarries I go to, that's the standard, spray paint and rocks, because, well, how else are we going to do it? And I know in the big mines, it's GPS, and there's a more perfect system to it, but it's funny watching layout, because it's like, you could be off, and you wouldn't even know. You wouldn't even know if you get even a foot off, which could make a big difference.
Right. And even when you do GPS layout at the top, it's about the deviation that can happen from the bottom.
Sure.
Right. When you're drilling.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that is there has to be, like when you have a full package and the driller is your employee, it's a little bit easier to manage. But a lot of times that's not the case. The quarry has the drill and the driller is their employee, or it's a completely different sub altogether. So you have that trust, but then we also need to, even if it's somebody else's sub, we need to manage that as well if you're the blasting contractor.
It's interesting with Dyno, because in some cases you're just supplying the explosives. In some cases you're blasting and supplying the explosives and doing the blasting. In some cases, you're supplying the explosives, doing the blasting, and doing the drilling.
Correct. Correct. And that's the same way with Dyno's network of JV, joint ventures and independents that they supply explosives to.
I see.
So the country's set up different ways for different companies, but like Dyno Nobel, I ran the east, south, central region for them, which made up Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. Okay. And we provided the explosives to construction contractors that did the D&B themselves. We would provide the explosives to the undergrounds in Tennessee and other places.
Mm-hmm.
And then we do the blasting ourselves as Dyno Nobel shot service. Now, the JV Wampum Hardware, who I'm with now, we do all of those things, but we also drill.
Okay.
And then we do D&B packages for quarries and construction, whereas Dyno Nobel typically doesn't do any construction, drilling, and blasting.
That's so fascinating. Construction, drilling, and blasting in Middle Tennessee, anybody that's familiar with earthwork and blasting is just perplexed by it, because they're just like, why is that drill just I'll see a drill in a street, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm like, oh, they're putting a new water line.
Yeah.
So they just poke holes down the street on the alignment for the water line, and just a little bit in each hole, just let it rip, just pop it all the way down. It's
yeah, pretty much anywhere you're going to dig in Middle Tennessee, you're going to be 18 inches down and hit limestone.
Yeah.
So any little thing that you're putting a bucket in the ground for, you're probably going to have to shoot.
It's blasting. Well, when we moved in here, these jabronis next door were blasting. They pulled like 250,000 yards of rock out of that basement, and they were shooting every day. And when in a lot of places you're measuring seismic coming off your shot, it's pretty strict. Like you cannot be making stuff shake around you. Here, who cares? Like, we're just blasting, brother. Like, it was shaking the building. There was mortar coming off the walls. They were shooting every day, and it would be like, bang. I mean, this whole building would shake every single day. I'm just like, that's how they do it here? Is no one? Have you guys even heard of seismic? Do you guys know what's going on here? Just no one cares. Or I've been to job sites where out in Middle Tennessee, it's a South thing, I guess, where there was one time, it's some dude in cargo shorts with the old school blasting setup. Like, what is it? Like the little cap and like the button, or it's like this little brass setup or whatever the hell it is with a
primer in it,
with the primer and the deck cord going out of it. And there's no air horn or anything. He's just standing there and just right in front of us. I'm like, what?
Where was the notice?
Were you going to say something? Like, were you going to let us know that you're going to blow up half the lot we're standing on right now? It's just like Billy, and he's been blasting for 30 years and just doesn't care. Big dip in and just let her rip, brother.
Let her rip. Did he even yell fire in the hole?
No. That's why I was like, I couldn't believe it. I'm like, you didn't say anything.
I guess that's a good point. Is those fly by night companies are out there.
It's a very old school world still.
And in our industry, I think that's what we hopefully like a podcast like this and things that we're getting the word out, is to get professionals, career people in to replace those kind of people that are doing that kind of work and have higher standards. I mean, that's one example or two examples that are out there. But as an industry, we got some professionals that are out there that, I keep hearing it all the time about how do we get new people? How do we get new blood into the industry? And 20 years ago, when I started to go to the ISEE meetings and things like that for explosives engineers and started to join, when I was going to college, I was even going to these things with my dad who was in drilling. And so when I'd go to these things, everybody would say, there's old heads in this building. Well, guess what? 20 years later, there's still a bunch of old heads in those meetings.
20 years older.
I mean, that and that's fine.
Yeah.
But we need to get young blood into the industry and let them know that there's good quality jobs.
Yeah.
And it's a niche that if you get in, you get that, the drilling and blasting in your blood. It's hard to leave it. It's a good industry. It's a fun industry. But it's how do we get the Billies that just are out there just fly by night and giving the industry a black eye at times. And when people were saying, "Oh, was that legal? Like, how does that happen?" Like, no, it is a good professional industry to get into, but hopefully we get the word out.
Well, I know I've talked with a lot of drilling and blasting outfits, and that's the biggest problem. Is it's you have to be very knowledgeable to do it well, especially drilling. Like drilling is not easy. It's not this entry level position. You don't throw anybody in a drill and just poke holes in the ground. And most everybody's pretty old. I would say the average age for drilling and blasting is way up there.
Yeah.
Way up there based on what I've seen. And so it's spooky. It's getting to the point where it's like, this is really spooky now, because if like this is the pinch point.
Mm-hmm.
If this goes away, mining doesn't happen and construction doesn't happen, and a lot of stuff doesn't happen if we don't figure this out. But that said, it is so cool. It's so cool. When I was with Kiewit, we were blasting almost every day, and I had my friend's drone filming every shot, just busting my ass all day to load this thing. And we had the 50-pound paper bags of ammo.
Mm-hmm.
We didn't have a bulk truck.
Right.
We didn't have anything fancy. And we stemmed with 5-gallon buckets.
Yes.
It was such a shitty setup. It's like, how much does this company make a year? And here we are with a 5-gallon bucket with pea gravel stemming every 50-foot hole. But I looking back on it, I'm grateful we had to work for every shot. At the end of the day, you shoot. It's so satisfying to see this whole face crumble right in front of you. I'm like, I helped with that. Like, I helped put that blast plan together. I put that damn ammo on the ground. This is sweet.
It's one of the best things you can actually post online or anything.
So cool.
Everybody, like, I used to go to my daughter's elementary school. She's older than that now, and be like the cool dad that came in because I was showing explosions.
Yeah.
You know, the dad that comes in and talks about, well, I'm a pharmacist, this and that. That's not that
you
fun
can
and
be
exciting.
a lawyer, kids. Look at these documents.
Yeah. I mean, but we come in showing videos of what we do. And you're right. It's very satisfying to drive by the projects you've built. And I thought at one point I wanted to get into corporate and chase corporate America by joining Dyno Nobel.
Mm-hmm.
And after being over there, great company, great products. A lot of the explosives companies, manufacturers make great products. I prefer Dyno Nobel. That's what I've always used.
Mm-hmm.
So
it's like a Milwaukee /
it's like driving
DeWalt.
a Ford. I've had a Ford when I started driving, and I still drive a Ford F-150. I mean, I'm just not going to buy a Dodge or Chevy.
Yeah,
You're either Ford guy or Chevy guy or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So, always use Dyno in every part of the business I've been in.
Mm-hmm.
So that I'm just kind of sold on that. But as far as the use, cut that out.
There's nothing cut out. Like I said, I screw up every episode. Tyler McCallum of McCallum out in the Pacific Northwest. I don't know if you follow them on social media. They do a really good job on social. That's the most consistent blasting footage I've seen. And every shot is just so nice. It just pours out of the face. It's just like, and just all comes out. Just fragmentation on that rock is so beautiful. But every time I'm on social media, or it's been years now, but I've seen they film every one of their blasts and they put it on the internet. Like, why don't we do more of this? Because this is sweet.
Yeah.
Everybody loves blasting. What's to not like about it?
What's not like about it? There's nothing, in my opinion.
Yeah.
But if you're, it depends what your company policies are. Some people don't want you to show.
Yes.
Behind the curtain, right? I mean,
but I am here to say their company policies are stupid. I was joking on social media the other day, but I get a lot of direct messages on social media. A lot of people just send me random shit. And I love people sending me random shit. If you're one of those people, thank you. I appreciate it. I love going through my DMs.
Right.
And I go through all of my DMs every weekend, or at least I try to, but there's a lot of them nowadays. And I get a lot of pictures and videos of the whoopsies out there. And I know a lot of these operations, and I know they're operations that have 0 cell phone tolerance and 0 social media and all these rules. And yet the pictures are still in my inbox.
Yeah.
It's like, I understand the policy, but it's silly because it's not stopping anybody.
No, it's true. It's true.
And
But
it's only hurting the industry.
it's something that we have a tool there for marketing that's just underutilized.
Yes, but a lot of the mining companies, especially the big corporate mining companies, you go to their social media and it'll be some people planting some flowers and then a golf tournament that they recently went to. And then, we're celebrating Thanksgiving today, and it's a kind of a stock image, like Happy Thanksgiving from so-and-so mine or whatever company.
Right.
You're scrolling. It's like, where's the mining? Where are the machines? Where's the blasting? Show me what you do. I want to see what you do. How can I go to work for you and be a miner if I don't know what a miner does? If I don't know what happens at a mine? Like, you're not helping me choose this as a career or choose your company as a company that I want to work for, because you're not actually showing me what your company does.
Correct. It's the same way as just showing the product you make. Well, what does it do?
What
do I do with it?
Yes. Yeah.
What's the life of a driller? A day in the life of a driller look like? Yeah. What does the day in the life of a blaster look like?
Yeah.
Or a pump truck driver?
Yeah. And even if you wanted to find like real information on blasting on the internet, it's probably pretty hard to find. I haven't done my research. I don't know, but probably pretty hard to find if I wanted to figure out like timing. I mean, maybe some paper somewhere, some blasting manual. I have an old school blasting manual in the kitchen. I'll show you. But nothing made in the 20th century, 21st century.
Right.
Getting my centuries wrong.
A lot of old reports, right?
Yeah. Where is the product made in North America for you guys?
Several places. Depends what product you're making, like a packaged dynamite or tube of emulsion would be Carthage, Missouri.
Okay.
As far as other emulsion plants, they're sporadic over the whole network.
I got you.
United States. I mean, there's South Carolina, Alabama, Ohio. We have one in Ormstown. We have some in Canada. So, I mean, depending on where it's coming from and going, it's all over. Some out in Wyoming.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Every
Cheyenne.
time. Sometimes I'll see a truck with the explosives placard on it. I'm like, yeah, that's the good stuff. I don't know where that's going, but that's the good stuff. There was a project in North Carolina, and I know one of the big logistical challenges was getting the powder to the site in the quantities they needed to keep up with the production.
Right, and that's where regulation comes in and hampers us. Today's business, we're driving a lot further to the sites to deliver the explosives because we're restricted on where we can be. And we got explosives, with regulation. Is it safer to be driving less explosives, less hours and miles to the sites, but we're restricted that we can't be there, not the proper zoning, not the distances, things like that.
I got you.
So it's, we are where we're at because we can be there, and we just got to drive.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, but I can't go drive a explosives truck, not even with the CDL, because I need hazmat as well.
Correct.
So you're even restricted
and maybe tanker endorsements as well.
Tanker endorsements.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a specialized professional. We want professional drivers driving explosives. It's not like driving potato chips.
It's a little bit different. No offense to potato chip drivers out there. But
no.
It's
I don't know how many of them are going to be listening to the Dirt Talk, but if you do, if you're listening to this and you want to get your hazmat CDL, call me.
You can probably make good money driving around explosives.
I think we provide pretty good wages.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's but just the even the logistics behind blasting. It's so. I just love the profession. I love the industry because there's so much to it. You got to manufacture it. You got to get it there, and then once you get it there, now there's all these rules, and it's regulated by the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, which is just random. It's like, the government's like, where do we put explosives? Like, just give it to the ATF guys. And so then the ATF says, well, you can't put your emulsion with your
Detonators.
Your detonators. Yeah, because, for obvious reasons, you can't just put it all in the same closet. So you got to separate it, and then you have your drilling, then you have your blasting plan, and then you have to verify that you did indeed use, whatever it was. Yeah, we used, 5,000 pounds of ANFO in this shot. And then you have to, inventory everything all the time to make sure, we still have the explosives we say, like someone's not walking off with a 50-pound bag of ANFO every day in the trunk of their car. It's just, there's a lot to it.
There's a lot to it. And that's why when you look at the whole industry, we need good people. We need good people. You put a lot of trust in those people to be doing those inventories right, use the explosives accurately, and document it.
I guess that would be a requirement for hiring for you all, is you do need good people.
Yeah, there's a barrier to entry as an employee as well, not just to get into the business as a business, to have your own company, but also to work for an explosives company.
You have to pass a background check?
Yes.
Yeah.
There'd be an employee possessor to say that you are allowed to work around explosives and handle them for our company.
I still have my little piece of paper that said I can handle explosives legally, because I thought that's just a random thing to have from back in the day. I'm like, this is kind of funny. But yeah, so you need people that not only can pass a drug test,
right,
but can pass a federal background check.
Correct.
That limits the pool a little bit.
It does.
Yeah.
It does.
Yeah. There's just so many things you don't think about. But I guess when you're handling explosives every day, it makes sense.
Yeah, it does make sense. And, just ATF regulates things at a federal level, but then there's each individual state, each individual borough or township, city, that also throws on layers of more potential regulation.
I got you. And then every mine's a little bit different.
Correct.
And it could be the same company, but different rules here versus there. And then you have MSHA in the mix as well. So it's just a party of regulations and rules.
See, we're selling this already.
Yeah, I know. It's a great gig. Yeah, you can't be a felon. You can't do drugs. You deal with a lot of rules and federal agencies. But
what's wrong with our industry?
It pays great, everybody.
What's wrong with our industry? Like we have all these rules.
Yeah, why can't we get people to join us? But it is a great industry. I in another life, I would happily work at a blasting company.
If this podcast thing doesn't work out for you, and then marketing and everything, let me know.
It's been close. So it's been pretty close over the past year or two. Yeah, it's been pretty close. Yeah, it would be cool. And you talked Florida and the Bahamas. It's interesting. So there's different rock, but then in Florida's really cool. Bahamas is really cool because you're blasting underwater.
Yes.
You're in water.
Lake-bound blasting, basically.
It's a lake-bound blasting. Yeah. All your aggregate is below the water table, and you can't pump the water fast enough because it's Florida. It's just this giant sponge. So just water just flowing everywhere. And that was the first time I really saw like just blasting in a lake.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And that's why going around the country and seeing these different applications, use of explosives, drilling.
Yeah.
I mean, those drills down there are Florida specials. Kelly bars. I mean,
they're like these giant sticks.
100 foot in the air.
Yeah, 100 foot.
It's unbelievable. And they basically just go around and make those. Like when you fly into Florida, you see all those lakes. And everybody's like, oh, those are so cool. Yeah, but if you see the ones that are exactly perfectly rectangle, they're a mile.
Yeah.
It's just, you just keep chasing the drill as the blaster. But those lakes are man-made when you fly in, and they're perfect. It just doesn't get made that way. So, that blasting down there too is kind of reverse. You don't want to cast the rock out into the lake.
Yeah.
You want to kind of stack it up versus that's everything else in your mining. You want to cast it out so it's easier to dig and everything else. But when you're digging with a shovel, and you want it to stack up so you don't lose all that material, and he doesn't have to go searching for it to get it.
Well, that's why a lot of the pits down there use dragline.
Yeah.
They can cast that bucket out and pull pull everything back in and dig all the way down. I mean, they can get 50, 60, 70 feet down there with that dragline bucket.
Correct.
It is so cool. And that's why the drills have to be so tall, because you got one hole. Whereas in a conventional quarry, you make a bench, you go into the next bench. There's no going down to the next bench.
No,
in
that's
Florida.
it. You got an 80-foot hole most times down
80
there.
foot.
And that's it. You got one shot at it, like you said before.
Yeah. Another, I'm thinking through just cool blasting I've seen. Something wild I saw was they were dredging the Boston Harbor. So what's happened is the global shipping trade has really increased over the past few years because of the expansion of the Panama Canal. I was just explaining this to somebody yesterday too, for no reason. It's just one of the fun facts I know. So global, like maritime trade and the size of ships is dictated by the Panama Canal. They can't be bigger than the Panama Canal because then your ship is limited to one side of the world. And so when they expanded the Panama Canal, it allowed for these larger generation of container ships to be built and bulk cargo carriers to be built.
Okay.
But the problem is bigger ships require bigger ports, taller bridges, deeper water. And so to accommodate and to stay competitive within the global trade market, all of these ports have had to spend billions and billions and billions of dollars on expansion projects. And so in Boston, Port of Boston, they expanded their port. But the problem is in the Boston Harbor, there are these rocky outcrops that in a low tide prevented ships from navigating the harbor. So they would have to wait until high tide. But they wanted to remove those little rocky outcrops so that these bigger ships could go in and out of the harbor at any time of the day. Crazy. And so Great Lakes Dock and Dredge was in there with their big excavator, the biggest excavator dredge in North America, in this part of the world. Monster machine digging the rock and loading it into barges, but it's rock, so it's not diggable. So they had to blast it all. And so they have this drill boat called the Apache with 3 drills. They fix this boat with spuds. So they fix it into position, basically lift it and level the ship. And then they have 3 drills on the side of the ship. And I might be explaining it wrong, but I'm pretty sure they fix the ship in position. They have to. It's drilling. And then they drill these holes. And then as they pull the drill out, they load the hole.
Because, with divers?
Huh?
With divers?
No. They load it from the drill.
Oh, wow.
Because they can't, if they pulled the drill out, they couldn't find the hole again. It's underwater. So as they drill, they move back. It's all loaded as they go back, which is fascinating. And then when they're ready, they blast, and it's just like kind of just bubbles at like a spa, bubbles at the surface. It doesn't look all that dramatic, but it's all blasted underwater, and then they come through and dig it.
Wow.
Yeah.
Been a part of a couple there when I was with Mangling and Blasting. They did a couple of those harbor projects, but they had done some underwater blasting. You had to hire commercial divers to take the explosives down to the holes.
That's crazy.
Now, I wasn't directly involved with that, but it was something we did one there.
Working underwater is one thing. Working underwater with like a bag of explosives, that's crazy. You get hazard pay if you're swimming around with explosives, do you think?
I'm sure those commercial divers made out pretty good. Yeah. I'm not too worried about what they made, but I'm pretty sure they're pretty set.
Yeah. That is such a cool world. There's so many applications once you start thinking about it.
Yeah, I think it's a great life that you can have working in the explosives industry.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's one thing when you see people that are in those rooms like we talked about earlier that are older, if we don't get younger people with them, learning from them and mentoring, you have years yet that people are hanging on to the industry.
Yeah.
And that shows you they don't want to leave. they want to stay in the industry. They love what they're doing,
Mm-hmm.
and they want to teach somebody else the craft that made their life what it is.
Yeah.
And we got to get other people with that room of older people that can mentor them and things. And one thing I wanted to say earlier that I missed was there's life lessons and lessons learned that were a different decade or multiple decades ago, that if those things happen today, you don't learn those lessons the same way.
Sure.
You're not in this industry if you have those same things happen. And those people in that room can teach the next generation of people that are going to be running companies,
Mm-hmm.
these explosive manufacturers and things, and drilling and blasting companies. They need those lessons learned.
Yeah, and it's this art and science that's really not recorded anywhere. It's just in people's heads, which is great, but also scary because when that person leaves, it's just like burning the book. We don't have the book anymore. All that information's gone. Yeah. Just imagine being one of those guys in like the 1800s and mining with just dynamite underground. Like blasting used to be, it's not even hardcore. It's just like crazy, some of the stuff. Have you been like the old mines? I guess like the old underground mines. And you try to put yourself there back in the day, making like maybe $1. You're making nothing.
Yeah, you got to respect the guys that actually did that for their life.
Yeah.
And came out to produce for their family. I mean, some of those mines were, I don't know what the alternatives were.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where like our industry, and not just explosives industry, but mining in general, construction in general, there's so many other opportunities that people are comparing to choose for their career.
Yeah.
So it's do I go to an office? Do I go to a warehouse? Do I work on a computer? I mean, I think that's the right people for this industry, and mining and construction are the ones that want a little change throughout the day.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to just drive a truck. I don't want to just be on the computer. I don't mind a little bit of outside work and inside work, and that's what I like about what we do is it changes, and sometimes the site changes every day. I'm not going to the same office building every day or the same warehouse every day. It changes. Now, some people don't like that. They want the standard schedule. I'm going to start at 8 o'clock. I'm going to be done at 4, or start at 7 and be done at 5, whatever that is. Some people want that. That's not our industry. But on the other side is, I think, what you can do with it. There's a little bit of gray in what we do.
Mm-hmm.
It's not black and white.
No.
And that's where I think that you can actually jump up in our industry from an entry level and learn a niche, learn the career, and become an expert. I think that's what's missing. Like, so many people would just want to come in and learn the skill, and I got it. But like, do you really want to become an expert? And I think that's how you can ultimately advance quicker in our industry. You can become an expert.
Yeah. If you become an expert in drilling and blasting explosives, you become wildly valuable to a lot of operations. Like, wildly valuable. Because you can go apply that anywhere, and everybody needs it.
Yeah, I think that's something we can offer.
Yeah.
And no matter if the company changes its ultimate philosophy, whether they're going to have their own blasters or not,
Mm-hmm.
or have their own drillers or not, you're going to be very valuable being an expert in the industry.
Sure. Yeah. It's a cool world. I wish I could go back to it every once in a while. It was really fun. It was just dumb luck that I got involved in it. And what was really cool about it all was Kiewit held the blasting license. They weren't subbing the blasting out.
Okay.
So that's why I was the one handling explosives, and that's why I was involved in every shot, which I've learned is not the norm with a construction company typically. Very few construction companies have blasting operations as well. And even if they do have blasting operations, it's typically under a different company, and they keep church and state separate in a way for the sake of liability. But with a company like a Kiewit, just, the big powerhouse they are, it's all just under one umbrella, which was so cool. So cool to be involved in a company that allowed me to do it all, which I thought was pretty unique.
Oh, that is very unique for someone the size of Kiewit.
Yeah.
To have it all in-house like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it was just unique project, unique application. I was thinking of, this is hilarious. I was just talking to them today, going to work for Ames Construction in Arizona, doing drilling and blasting. Because after school, I had a girlfriend my last 2 years of college. We had a great thing going. And I was bouncing around during the summers and going to Arizona State in Tempe. And I was working my senior year in the office for a company called Hayden based out of Phoenix, but they had a Texas division. And I knew I wanted to leave Arizona after school. I don't know why. It's just like, I was born and raised here. I've been here my whole life. I want to go expand my horizons and see something else. And so they sit me down and they say, hey, we actually want to keep you in Arizona. And this is like a few weeks before I graduate. We want to keep you in Arizona. I'm like, no, I'm going to Texas. And if we can't make this work, I'm going to a different company. Right. I'm leaving the state. It can be with you guys or somebody else, but that's what's going to happen. And I don't know if I said it like that, but I do remember being pretty firm. Like, this isn't a negotiation. I'm doing this or I'm going somewhere else. And I had some bargaining power because I had so much experience that I kind of could go where I wanted to after school. The benefit of working for 5 companies while you're in school and have an engineering degree. So I move out to Texas, and my girlfriend wanted to come with me, but I was like, I don't know about that because it just didn't feel right. I don't know what it was. It was just, I'm 22. I'm a fucking idiot at the time. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, let's just try the long distance thing. And I didn't, the thought of her dependent on me didn't sit right. So I'm just like, listen, I'll be out here for like a year. And then there's this big project, the Loop 202 project, this new highway job. It's this $1 billion highway job in Arizona kicking off. And I'll go get a job with Ames doing drilling and blasting because I have drilling and blasting experience. They're going to need people doing that work. That's a pretty unique thing to have on your resume.
Right.
So I'm pretty confident I could get a gig doing that. And I'll be back to Arizona in a year. Like, It's not even that long. And so she says, no, thanks. She's married to somebody else now happily, which is great. And the funniest part is I was back in Arizona 8 months later because I did 4 months in Houston or Fort Worth. Then I did 4 months in Houston, quit. And then when I started to build it, moved back to Arizona to live with my parents.
She didn't want to live with your parents?
No, yeah.
She wasn't there waiting?
No. She was out, dude. She was like, all right, if I'm not, she did what I did to the company. Like, if I'm not coming to Texas, then I'm out. I'm like, well, here we are. So, yeah.
Things
I was
happen for a reason.
Talking to Ames today.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How the world turns.
Yeah, it's Southwest Energy does a lot of blasting out in the Southwest.
Yes.
Through Fisher. But I don't know if they use Dyno or somebody else.
They would be a Orica. Yeah, Orica JV.
I got you. That's so funny how that world works.
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't know the JV thing was a thing. How much, what's on a percentage basis, how much is the raw materials versus the service and the drilling? Like in a shot, like roughly what percentage would be the actual raw materials?
I would say a third.
A third. Okay. That's pretty even. So it's helpful to have a partner.
It's helpful to have a partner.
In a third of...
Especially what we just went through coming out of COVID. And then there's all the security of supply and things like that. If you're not connected with someone that knows roughly what volumes you're going to need and things like that, they can't plan to manufacture just like tomorrow everything you need and get it within the system to deliver.
I didn't even think of that. It's not like diesel fuel where you can just order a truck whenever you want. You have to plan ahead on here's how much we need. And so they feed it to you consistently in theory.
Right. And that's something that with regulation, we can't store everything we need for a year on one site.
Sure.
It has to come each week at some sites, or each day, or, once a month, depending on how big or small the site is, how much it's running. And that changes when there's a site that gets a major project nearby.
Yep.
Now all of a sudden you go from what you were using in a month in a week. And being in with a manufacturer really helps when you get that random project that you can support.
I got you. How do people find y'all?
LinkedIn. We have a website as well. Mainly www.wampumhardware.com.
How you spell wampum?
Wampum.
Okay. I would have said WOM, so I'm glad that.
But they can find us probably through you. You have a bigger followership than we do.
Yeah.
But we have a lot of our postings online. And really, if somebody's looking to get into the explosives industry, whether it's Wampum Hardware in the area we cover, or Dyno Nobel, or just get in and get information, I'd love to talk to them. And I can get them hooked up with whoever in whatever state they want to work in.
And going to that, do you all hire people that are unexperienced in blasting?
Yeah, we would, definitely. I mean, it's something we're looking for right now is just explosives trainees.
Yeah. Get
in and get a crash course in what explosives has to offer in the industry. And you may get in here thinking you want to drill or thinking you want to blast, and you may get into something completely different.
I now just, this topic is making me think of all kinds of random shit. There was this one time, and I know I'm acting like, I've done blasting forever. I did blasting for 3 months. But I've seen a lot of blasting in a lot of different applications. But it was that morning I put a shot together, and then from there I went straight to the airport. And I was still wearing everything I had when I was putting that shot together and loading that shot. And I go through airport security, and I walk through airport security, I get through it, and then just this paralyzing fear sets over me. I'm just like, what the fuck did I just do? Because had they just gone and swabbed my shoes or my hands, it would have come up positive for explosive residue. And I would have been sitting there in some back room getting strip searched and having to explain myself. And I know it wouldn't have been bad, but it's just I was so scared after that. And so I never traveled after loading a shot again, because I didn't want to have to explain myself and end up in some sticky situation because I test positive for explosive residue at TSA. Yeah, so there's a lot of times I get my computer out and it has the I love explosive stickers on it or whatever it might be, and it's there's a lot of TSA guys are what? Yeah. I'm yeah, make sure. Is this a joke or what? No, that's what I do for a living. Yeah, different conversations. Yeah, it has to have been a problem for somebody at some point. There's no way every blaster in America has never been pulled over by TSA for some explosive residue on the boots or something like that. It has to have happened at some point. I'm just glad it wasn't me. Yeah. Or you. Watch yourself. Yeah, I just never went there. Well, I'm glad we were able to make this happen. Thanks for stopping by. I'm glad you wanted to get an explosives guy on your podcast. Give us the opportunity to talk about the industry. First explosives guy. So, and hopefully I can see a shot at some point. There you go. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, man. Appreciate it.